Hey guys, how's it going? So since I just came off my prep for the 2019 Europa that was held in Orlando, I thought it'd be appropriate to talk about reverse dieting. And so basically what I'm going to go through is tell you exactly what it is, if it's right for you, and if you think it is, how to go about doing it. Alright, so let's get right into it. Alright, so simply put, a reverse diet is a strategic increase in calories after you've been in a calorie restricted phase for quite some time. And I place emphasis on strategic because I believe that you should be just as meticulous or almost as meticulous with this reverse dieting plan as you were during contest prep. And I'll get into that in just a few moments. Now, I believe that you should have been on the diet for at least 8 weeks. So, no mini cuts. You don't need a reverse diet after a mini cut. It's really not necessary. Your metabolism hasn't really slowed down all that much. And I believe it's especially important for females as their endocrine and hormonal system is it's a lot more complex than men's are, in terms of their menstrual cycle and things like that, and kind of booting that system back up. So there's been a lot of debate in the fitness bodybuilding community, whatever you want to call it, whether you should or should not reverse diet, whether it's even necessary in the first place. And so a common question that gets asked is, can I just go back up to my maintenance calories? Theoretically, yes. Yes, you can. But the thing is, as we're dieting down, our metabolic rate has gone down. And it's always a moving target. So it's kind of hard to predict where it is. We have those calculators online that kind of predict where it is. But given that your metabolism has slowed down quite significantly, those are most likely going to overshoot what your actual metabolic rate is. So what I believe is taking a more conservative approach is definitely going to be safer in the long run if you really want to keep fat gains at a minimum. Alright, so you decided that you want to take a little bit more of a conservative approach and utilize reverse dieting. Alright, so how do you go about it? So the most important thing here is you want to use the data you already have. You want to make it easier on yourself. So I'm sure when you were in your contest prep phase, you were tracking your nutrition, how much cardio you were doing, your weight training workouts. So basically, you want to do that. You want to use that in order to gradually bump up the calories while also simultaneously tapering down your cardio. Well, depending on how much you are doing. Most people get to a pretty significant amount by the end of their prep. And so there's no exact rules on how to do that exactly. That's why we need the data we already have, so we kind of have a general rule of thumb to go by. So in terms of calories, I would stick with about maybe every week or so, just to make it easier on yourself. I would bump it up anywhere between 100 to 200 calories. Whereas for the cardio, that's going to be a little more complicated depending on if you were doing HIIT cardio or low intensity steady state cardio. Basically, you want to find a rule of thumb that works for you. But something that I think that's really important is you don't want to be too conservative with it either, where you're only decreasing it. But say, for example, you're doing low intensity cardio and you're up to an hour a day, and you only bump it by 5 minutes each week, 55 minutes, 50 minutes, 45 minutes, etc. In my opinion, it's a little too slow for most people anyway. And then only increasing your calories by maybe 25, 50 calories a week. Try to be a little bit more aggressive with it if you can. And that's where your tracking data becomes super important. You want to still believe in daily weigh-ins, and then taking the weekly average of that. Of course, your weight's going to fluctuate a bit, depending on your sodium intake, water intake, other lifestyle factors as well. Utilizing progress pictures, super important, perhaps even more important than what your scale weight is saying. And then lastly, any sort of body composition measure that you were using during prep. Most people use calipers. I was lucky enough to have access to a DEXA. But again, whatever you were using during prep, I'd want you to use the same thing for this as well. And the last point I want to make here is you want to be just as methodical with this reverse diet as you were on prep, like I mentioned earlier, but also at the same time, use this time to allow yourself to have a little more freedom, and I find it especially important in the social aspect of things. Allow yourself to actually eat out and don't worry about every single little gram, of carbs, fats, and proteins. Allow yourself a little more wiggle room to be a little more off, because, life's too short, basically. Alright, so to wrap this all up, I'll give you guys a take-home message, and that's basically, it's your choice whether you want to do this or not, obviously, but it's just dependent on so many factors. Everybody is different in how their metabolism works. There's psychological factors as well that go into this. But basically a few things to think about are, what are your goals? Are you looking to maintain your current weight, or as best you can? It's a little difficult to maintain contest shape. Still a relatively lean shape, or do you want to go right into a bulk? Do you want to start going right into your off season and start to grow again? And for example, if that's the point, then fat gain isn't going to be as as detrimental to your psyche as say maintaining would be. How much fat are you willing to put on post show? Are you willing to accept the fact that it is going to happen and it is going to play a role on your mind? That's just something to think about. And so if you really don't want to, if that's going to cause you a lot of anguish, then I would suggest really being even more methodical with reverse dieting than someone who maybe wants to jump right into their off season, their improvement season, whatever you want to call it, really. And so that's it, guys. That's reverse dieting in a nutshell. Do you have to do it? No, of course not. But then again, is it smart to do it? In my opinion, yes, but you don't have to be as slow and conservative with it as some kind of lead you to believe. That's kind of the information that's been cycled around. But again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below or send me a direct message, and I'll be happy to answer it for you. Alright guys, thanks.